Hello everyone, let's get started. As an overview, this week explains what this course is about and introduces major questions and discussions that will be handled throughout the course. And then, we'd like to see how each topic of this course is closely connected to each other. For example, how poverty is linked to inequality through growth, where we base our conversations on the so-called Kuznets hypothesis. And from the increasing global inequality, we'll figure out the role and rationale of development cooperation. So, this week's material will serve as a good introduction to the course before we get down to the real business. I hope you enjoy the lecture. Stay tuned. Let me briefly explain how poverty, inequality, and development cooperations are discussed in the global community. We are looking at 8 Millennium Development Goals and 17 Sustainable Development Goals, all from the United Nations. As the name tells, the MDGs started in year 2000, or the new millennium, up until 2015, and the SDGs from 2016 to 30. So we are now living in the era of SDGs. Compared to the MDGs, SDGs are more inclusive from 8 to 17 goals and go deeper and specific. For example, MDG goal number 1, poverty and hunger, is broken into 2 pieces in SDGs, goal number 1 and 2. Also, MDG goal number 7, environmental sustainability, has been discussed more specifically in SDGs in 13, climate action, 14, life below water, and 15, life on land, all separately. Anyway, if you carefully examine each goal, you will immediately notice that all the goals are directly or indirectly related with what this course is about: poverty, inequality, and development cooperation. For example, poverty, which is probably the most important issue in international development, yet is very challenging to tackle. In that regards, number 1 goal in MDG is directly about poverty. More specifically, it is about eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. What do you mean by eradicate? How do we measure quantitatively whether poverty has been eradicated? That will be discussed in this course. Other goals in MDGs are about education, number 2, health, number 4, 5, and 6, reduce child mortality, reduce maternal mortality, and combat HIV/AIDS. And environment, number 7, are all indirectly associated with poverty, meaning that we can achieve these goals if we eradicate extreme poverty. How about SDGs, which are more inclusive than MDGs? There are 17 goals, much more than 8 goals in MDGs. Here, look at goal number 1, still about poverty. Instead of eradicate, they use the term no poverty, and there is a technical difference between these two. But anyway, we see from this chart that poverty should be the most important issues in both MDGs and SDGs. By the way, has the MDG number 1 been achieved? I mean, has the global community eradicated extreme poverty? If we define eradication by making it half or halving the number of people below the poverty line, the answer is yes. The number of people below the poverty line is less than half now compared with those people 2 decades ago. However, this may be just a numeric illusion. It does not mean that every single person or country is not poor anymore. Countries in East Asia have successfully experienced, but countries in Africa still suffering. Poverty is still there, and it is hidden. And that's why is still number one goal in SDGs. How about inequality? MDG points out gender equality as goal number 3, and SDG repeats that in number 5 and includes all other kinds of inequalities in number 10. So, inequality is also a very important issue in both MDGs and SDGs. In fact, inequality is more tricky, and eradicating it could be more challenging than eradicating poverty. We can find examples that countries may not be extremely poor, but still very unequal, like countries in Latin America. How about South Korea? It is not a poor country at all, but inequality level in this country keeps rising over the past years, making it more serious to handle. What determines inequality and how do we measure it will be discussed in detail in this course. Then, as a solution of tackling poverty and inequality, we bring another important concept in this course, which is development cooperation. Inequality within a country can be solved by effective taxation or any other policies stressing redistribution. But how about inequality between countries? How can we solve the growing discrepancies between the developed and developing world? That is where the so-called partnership becomes important, which is the last goal in both MDGs and SDGs, introduced as goal number 8 in MDGs and 17 in SDGs. Being repeated in both MDGs and SDGs means that it is not only important but also very challenging to achieve. This partnership is a cooperation between developed and developing countries. Development is important, but the role of cooperation should be emphasized. By the way, Ewha University has an interdisciplinary undergraduate major of international development cooperation where you can take relevant courses and have friends who share the common interest. We also have the same major in the Graduate School of International Studies where you can study this field more in depth.